Hey everyone, this is Tom Nash, and in today's video, we're talking about the top 10 stocks super investors are buying right now. And it's important to look at that every single quarter because when we are trying to get better at investing, we want to take a look at the guys who are the best, the cream of the crop, the ones that are the 1%. We don't want to learn basketball from the guy in our neighborhood who scored 7 points in his high school game. We want to look at Steph Curry, at LeBron James, at Michael Jordan, at Shaquille O'Neal. These are the people you want to watch. And when I say these are the people, I mean Mohnish Pabrai, Bill Ackman, Warren Buffett, Seth Klarman. So these super investors are required by law in the United States to disclose every single quarter what they've bought and what they've sold. And that gives us a glimpse into what they think about macroeconomics, where they see the economy going, where they see the stock market going. It is super important. It's not there for us to do exactly what they've done, to copy paste their buys and their sells. I think that would be a mistake. But it's an important glance into how they perceive the economy and the stock market because they have so much more networking, so much more knowledge and resources, and have a better insight into macroeconomics and the stock market than most retail investors. That's just a fact. Now, in today's video, we're going to do 3 simple things. Number 1, we're going to talk about how the top 1% invests in general from a 10,000 feet kind of level. Then I'll show you a few stocks some of the more prominent investors are buying right now. And at the end, I'll show you 3 things. Number 1, the top 10 most owned stocks by super investors. The top 10 biggest bets as far as super investors goes, and the top 10 buys over the past quarter by super investors. All super valuable information. So let's begin with the 10,000 feet view. How the top 1% invest compared to retail investors? Why are they doing so much better while retail investors are getting hammered despite the market doing 8 to 10% a year? Well, Vanguard actually did a study showing exactly that. And what they found is going to blow your mind. Number 1, look at the allocations. Look at that bond allocation. How many of you retail investors have 26 of your portfolio in bonds? I would bet not a lot. Number 2, they only trade about 8% of their entire portfolio during a single year. So 92% of their portfolio value stays put for the year. How many of you only trade 8% of your portfolio in a year? Not a lot. Now, the other thing is 82% of their stocks are US stocks. 82% US. The US stock market is dominated by the top 1%. 82% they are in the US market. I've always said it. Don't bet against the US companies. Another interesting thing that happened is during COVID, based on this Vanguard study, during COVID, 99% of them stayed invested. And their entire stock allocation only went down by 4% on average. While everybody else panicked, these guys stay in the market pretty much put. Now, another thing interesting is that the average portfolio turnover for the 1% is 12 years. Massive holding period. Warren Buffett literally told you this. My favorite holding period is forever. Now, the average exposure per stock is 5%, which means they diversify. Now, if you diversify, if you hold for long, if you focus on US markets, you will be investing like the top 1%. Simple as that. Now, we're done with the 10,000 feet level. Let's go down to ground level and look at a few stocks. Now, one guy I always single out of everybody else, and that's the first thing I do every quarter, is Warren Buffett. Look, Warren Buffett isn't exciting. He's not going to buy Palantir. He's not going to buy Tesla. But he gave you 20% per year over the past 4 years like clockwork. And he's going to keep doing that. God knows until how long, probably after we're all gone. Warren Buffett is going to outlive all of us, probably. Now, this guy over the past quarter actually did something very interesting. He increased his exposure to oil, adding another 15% to Chevron, another 9% to Occidental. So Warren Buffett is essentially betting on increased exposure to oil. Interesting. Now, Stanley Druckenmiller, actually, who's one of the more aggressive guys in the bunch, and he's more open to this exciting plays like Palantir, like NVIDIA, he actually bought a heap of calls on NVIDIA. Absolutely insane. So he's basically betting on NVIDIA and the AI revolution. And Michael Burry, a guy we haven't talked about in a while, because he predicted 47 out of the last 0 crashes. So Michael Burry is buying Alibaba and JD like crazy. He's betting on China. I personally think it's a horrible bet, but hey, maybe at this price, he may make some money as a trader, as a long-term investment. Absolutely not my cup of tea. But just to give you a taste of some of the more prominent names you've been hearing about. Now, let's talk about the top 10 owned stocks by super investors. And this list is going to be very interesting because it's going to be missing one key name. Let's see if you can guess. Comment below before I get to it. Number 1, and it's not by any particular order. Let's just make it completely random, okay? So we have Google, we have Microsoft, we have Meta, we have Amazon, Visa, Berkshire Hathaway, MasterCard, United Health, 10 companies which are the top 10 owned by super investors. Have you noticed which company, massive company, is missing from this list? Well, Nvidia. The super investors, with the exception of Stanley Druckenmiller, who's made a lot of money, not to be discounted, the aggregate super investors are not huge fans of Nvidia. Maybe it's the valuation, maybe it's something deeper, I don't know, but they are buying Microsoft and Google and Meta and Amazon, but they're not buying Nvidia. Now let's go to the next category, which is essentially the top 10 bets of super investors. How many super investors hold a specific stock? Number 1, we got Google with 33 super investors. Then we have Microsoft with 31, Meta with 25, Amazon with 24, Visa with 23, Berkshire Hathaway with 19, MasterCard with 17, Wells Fargo 17, United Health 16, and Apple at 14. Again, notice which company is missing. Again, Nvidia. Nvidia is not in that game. For some reason, super investors are not particularly keen on Nvidia at this price point. Interesting. And now let's go to the next category, which is the one I find most interesting, which is the top 10 buys over the past quarter. What are the super investors buying most recently? And this list includes a few stocks we have never talked about on this channel. For example, HCC, Warrior Met Coal. Also, NATL, NCR Atleos Group, which is a ATM business. Arch Resources, another coal play. DHR, Danaher Group, Healthcare. Charter Communications. We have Expedia, Disney, Amazon, Microsoft. A lot of names here, so let's break it apart. And before a lot of you ask me, well, Tom, why didn't you mention about the stocks they've sold? Because that's also important, right? Well, look, kind of yes and no. People have 1,000 different reasons to sell a stock, but they only have one reason to buy it. That's why I focus on the buys. Now look, at the end of the day, there's a few trends here that happened, that have transpired over the past quarter that actually I find fascinating. Number 1, we have Warren Buffett going Occidental and Chevron heavy. On the other hand, within the top 10 buys of the past quarter, HCC and Arch Resources, 2 coal plays, are in the top 10. So Warren Buffett is buying energy, buying oil, and the super investors are buying coal. Why is this energy play going on right now? Are super investors predicting an increase in demand and decrease in supply? And on top of it, what I find interesting is that Danaher and Berkshire are in the top 10 buys of the past quarter. The Berkshire is kind of understandable, but Berkshire and a healthcare company in the top 10 buys of the past quarter, another defensive move. If energy is defensive, if Berkshire and Danaher, healthcare, old school, defensive, a lot of defensive plays. And even if we look at their list from a tech perspective, we found Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, the top gold standards in search, cloud, and software. To me, it feels a little bit defensive, slightly, but hey, I don't have a DeLorean and I don't have 1.21 gigawatts or gigawatts or whatever it's called. I can't travel and find out what happens in the future. Neither can you. And you know what? Talk to us about it. Join our free to join Discord. Discord.gg/Tom Nash, the best community in the business. It's literally free to join. What are you waiting for? Join us. We're almost at 10,000 members. Let's talk about this. Let's try to figure out what's going on here. And if you want to take the next step, join our academy at Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Nash. We'll teach you how to read financials, how to analyze companies, how to become a better investor. And if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Get your stock MVP 1 week for free. Get it right now. Try it out for a whole week. See if it's for you. We've built this, me and my partners, for you guys, retail investors, for retail investors. And if you made it all the way to this part of the video, to the end, use the code TOM25 for 25% off for a lifetime, and your price stays. Price guaranteed forever. I'll see you in the next one.